And we're back. It's time to sort it out once again. This is finding velocity of soccer kick. In this problem, we're going to kick the soccer ball first. We will observe its flight. We will be given the time in air, and we need to measure the horizontal distance. And keep in mind, we're given a value for g, so we are assuming that we are on a planet with a little bit different gravitational field than Earth. So remember to use that instead of 9.8 in your calculations. So, if you saw my video on Jumping Joe, that's great. You may want to check that out before looking at this one, because in this problem we are working backwards from the ending information from a projectile launched at an angle. So, we can start by thinking in the x direction. So we know that the horizontal distance will be given by the initial x velocity times the time. So rearrange for that. We know delta x, and we also know the time. So this will allow us to find the initial velocity in the x direction. Then, thinking in the y direction, we can think in terms of time to the peak. So the total time in air is twice the time to the peak. Then, how long does it take to get to the peak? It's how long it takes the projectile to accelerate in the y direction to 0 with an acceleration of g. So that will help us find our initial y velocity. Now, if you did those two correctly, thinking about this diagram up here, we know the initial velocity in the x, initial velocity in the y. We do not know theta, and we do not know the initial velocity, but now we can use our right triangle knowledge. In terms of the angle, we can use tangent. That would be the relationship of opposite over adjacent. We solved for these two in the first step, so work that out correctly. Then in terms of the resultant, that's the overall initial velocity. We use Pythagorean theorem for that. You can plug in these expressions that we arrived at a little bit earlier. And here's a formula at the end that would take you there, assuming we found the time to the peak earlier. So that's what you need for this one.